Hey up everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well and you're looking after yourselves. Today's video is going to be my worst Parramatta Eels team of the decade. So from 2010 to 2019. Now I know this video is probably going to get a lot of upset people, a lot of dislikes, but I just want to make a few disclaimers. First thing, I'm not attacking the players personally. So I'm not attacking them as people. I'm just solely making this team based off their efforts for Parramatta whilst they're at the club. Some of these players actually did quite well in other clubs, but just at Parramatta they were shite. And that's just the cold hard facts. You can't ignore something like that. Also, I just want to say that this is based off my opinion, and my opinion only. This isn't an opinion that's held by everyone. Some people might disagree with my list. If you do, let me know in the comment section below. Also, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone that's subscribed to my channel, especially the new subscribers. I've made a lot of content over the last month, 2 months or so go check out those videos. And thank you to everyone that's been there from the start. Thank you for your ongoing support. So I'm going to read out the team now, and then we're going to give a brief overview of every single player in each position. So at fullback, I've gone for Jake Maloney. The wings, Chris Walker and George Jennings. The centres, Cheese Blair and Ryan Morgan. The half pairing of Ben Roberts at 5'8" and Chris Sandeul at halfback. The props, Carl Webb and Justin Parr. The hooker, Matt Keaton. The second rowers, Frank Pritchard and Rennie Matua. And at lock, Joseph Paulo. And the bench, Lee Mossop, Billy Rogers, Luke Kelly and Will Smith. I got through that list without laughing because some of these players, they're just fucking shite. Well, at Parramatta anyway. I've got me Parramatta hat on, the 2018 members hat. I think Entertain House has got this hat. It's a nice hat, and I think this was the highlight of the year. Because the season was fucking shite, let's just be fair. It was a horrible season. I think the less said about it, the better. So anyway, let's start with the fullback, Jake Maloney. So he played 18 matches for the club in the early part of the decade. There was other fullbacks you could choose from. There was Jared Heane, William Opawati, Luke Bate was at fullback, I think, for a bit of the 2010s. But Jake Maloney was the worst, I think, the worst fullback that we've had in the last decade. He played 18 games, as I said, and he was part of those wooden spoon sides in 2012 and 2013. And once Brad Arthur come in, he was quickly dispensed of. So Jake Maloney gets me fullback spot. The wings, Chris Walker and George Jennings. So Chris Walker, he was part of that disastrous signing campaign that we had in 2011, where we signed a lot of old has-beens or players that used to be great but were coming towards the end of their career. He only played about 5 or 6 matches for us, and then he handed in a transfer request. He looked well off the pace. He looked a bit of a shadow of his former self, so he was one of my wingers. The other winger, George Jennings, he's still actually at the club. He's playing in reserve grade, where I think he belongs. He was voted the best back at the club in 2018, but as I said, 2018 we finished as wooden spooners. We were fucking shite. So it's seeing something when a really bad player gets voted as the best back in a terrible season. He's made a lot of errors in some of the games that he's played, especially last year when he was called into the side. I remember against North Queensland, we were getting back into the match, and then on our own goal line, he throws a bullet pass at Blake Ferguson that didn't have to be thrown, and that led to a try. And then there's a few other games I could point out, but I can make a video about that, so I'm not going to go into it. But he's my other winger. The centres, Cheese Blair and Ryan Morgan. Cheese Blair, he was just a very average player, not a great centre whatsoever. He kind of turned the corner when he went to Melbourne. He nearly won a premiership with him. He would have been part of that 2017 side if he hadn't got injured. I mean, can you imagine that? Premiership winner, Cheese Blair. So people like Andrew Eddingshausen and Nathan Imarsh haven't won premierships, but then Chase Blair has. What type of a universe are we living in here? And Ryan Morgan, he was also, along with Chase Blair, part of those wooden spoon sides in 2012 and 2013. Once again, he just wasn't a very good player, but for some reason, while everyone else was getting dropped or sacked or everyone was kind of getting released, Ryan Morgan was always there. He played 84 matches for the club in his time at Parramatta, and sometimes I used to think, does he have some sort of a dirty secret on Brad Arthur? Does he have some sort of date on Brad Arthur where if he goes up to Brad Arthur and he goes, look, if you drop me, I'm going to go to the media and I'm going to see this and that because I know dirty little secrets about you. And he's going, oh no, Ryan, I'm not going to drop you. And there's just, I don't know, he just managed, he was there all the time even though he was shite. In the Habs, Chris Sandeul and Ben Roberts, so both of them were part of those wooden spoon sides. Ben Roberts, one of the worst 5'8" I've ever seen, ever. Chris Sandeul, we bought him for massive money from South Sydney. I'm talking massive. I think he was on about 500,000-600,000 a year, maybe more. I'm just going off the top of my head. He would play a good game for us, but a good game for Chris Sandeul would be once every 3 months. The rest of the time, it was very frustrating to watch him play. You didn't know what you were going to get. He was dropped numerous times when he played for us. He was called fat and unfit by Peter Sterling, and he ended up leaving the club in 2015, I think, just off the top of my head, in bad circumstances. He got the golden handshake in the end. I think we were just glad to get shot of him in the end. He didn't really produce what we needed, especially for the money that we were paying for him. The props, Carl Webb and Justin Parr. So, I mean, it's a bit slack, especially over, I think about a month ago, we all got the news of Carl Webb and the motor neuron disease diagnosis. But this is just from a playing perspective. If we would have signed Carl Webb maybe 5-6 years earlier, great, but we signed a player that was towards the end of his career. He was slow, I think very unfit, unmotivated, and he only lasted 5 games for us and we got shot of him. Justin Parr, we signed him for big money from St George. He was part of that minor premiership winning team in 2009. He was supposed to be one of the main props for our club going forward into the 2010s, and it just didn't pan out. He was injured a lot. He just wasn't a very good player for us, so I had to include him in the team. The hooker, Matt Keaton, he had that good year in 2009, but I think all that euphoria and everything surrounding going through to that grand final, it kind of masked the frailties and the how bad he actually was. I think if we didn't have a good 2009, I think it would have been more evident early on that Matt Keaton wasn't a very good player. He wasn't a very good hooker. He ended up playing 130 matches for us in that early bit of the decade. He was part of that 2012-2013 wooden spoon sides, and we ended up getting shot of him in 2014, and he was replaced by Nathan Peets. Second rowers, Frank Pritchard and Rennie Matua. Rennie Matua, we signed him after he completed his drugs ban. He wasn't a very good player for us, let's just put it bluntly. Frank Pritchard, we signed him, I think, well, if we would have signed him 10 years early, fantastic, but we signed him when he was, I think, 35-year-old. He was past it, he was slow, he was unfit. I think he was just looking for one big paycheck. Sometimes when I watched him play, I kind of went, is he a Canterbury sleeper agent? Because I know he played with Canterbury for years, so I kind of went, is Canterbury paying him money on the side to play bad on purpose? Because, you know, Canterbury and Parramatta, we have that big, massive rivalry. Is he a sleeper agent? Who knows? And Joseph Paulo at lock, he was part of that 2012-2013 wooden spoon side. He played a number of positions, but he was mainly a lock 5'8". If you've seen one of my other videos, I go on a bit of a rant about Joseph Paulo. I think he's an awful player. He couldn't even do the basics right, and also he didn't have much skill, but then he was trying to be a Harlem Globetrotter. He was trying to do flick passes around the back, and he was trying to do this and trying to do that, and fuck. Very frustrating. I think I ended up getting fucking drunk the day that he ended up leaving Parramatta. I was that happy. I went, thank fuck he's gone, because he was shite. On the bench, face player Lee Mossop. He come over. Well, he come from England where I live. He went over to Australia, and he was walking around going, "Oh yeah, Super League's a tougher competition than the NRL. Or the NRL might be this and that, but the Super League's tough. But I'm coming over here." And then he only lasted a couple of games. He got belted, did his shoulder, and then off back to England. So that was the end of Lee Mossop in Australia. Billy Rogers, second player on the bench. He's, I think, often regarded as one of Parramatta's worst ever players. If you go on any of the Parramatta blog sites, the fan sites, they'll tell you if there's a list of the top 10 worst Parramatta players, he's on it. I think he's a bit of a cult hero. He's that bad of a player that when people talk about Parramatta players of the past, Billy Rogers is always mentioned with either jokes or seriousness. He only lasted, I think, a few games with us, and then he ended up having a career in the United States of America with the Jacksonville Axemen. And I think currently he plays for a 5th Division club over here, somewhere in Yorkshire. Not too sure where. I think they're called the Underbank Rangers. But he's over there. Luke Kelly, third player on the bench. He was part of those wooden spoon sides 2012-2013. He was mainly like a fill-in halfback if Chris Sandeul or we didn't have someone else there. Awful player. I got heaps of stories about Luke Kelly. Could probably save it for another video. I'm not going to go into that. And the last player on the bench, Will Smith, current player for Parramatta. Awful player. Awful player. I believe he cost us the game. 2017 elimination final against North Queensland. 2018 against St George. Have you ever seen a player attempt a 40-20 and the ball only goes 10 metres in the touch? Well, that's Will Smith. Will Smith, whenever he's named in the Parramatta team, if you go on Facebook, you'll just see the negative comments going, why is Will Smith fucking there? Awful player. I'm not going to include a coach, but I guess if I had to include a coach for this worst Parramatta team of the decade, I probably would put Stephen Kearney in there. Total wet blanket, fraud of a coach, no good. Has one of the worst winning percentages of any coach in the modern era. I think he's around about 30%. But yeah, I'm not going to include a coach, but if I was, I'd probably put Stephen Kearney. So anyway, that's my worst ever Parramatta team of the last decade, 2010 to 2019. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like. If you really liked it, give it a share. If you're enjoying all the content I'm making, please subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click that notification bell so you get an email when I release a new video. And if you got some spare time, go over to Rugby League History. That's my Facebook page. I'll put a link in the description below. And I'll also put a link for the Instagram page as well. I've just started that the other week. Already got about 40 followers. Hopefully we can get up to a couple of thousand like I got with the Facebook page. But anyway, look after yourselves everyone. Take care, and I'll catch us all later. Ta-ra.